All right, in the last segment, I spoke with U.S. Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina about the recent crackdown on the house churches in China and the bill he's introduced in response. Well, one of the church leaders who was detained during the raids earlier this month was Pastor Ezra Jin Mingri, who has been leading underground churches in China since 2007. Now, ahead of President Trump's visit to Asia last week, Pastor Ezra's daughter has been urging the president to raise the issue of the detained church leaders with China's president, who President Trump is expected to meet with on Thursday. And she joins me now to share her father's story. Grace, welcome to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
First, tell us about your father and what happened.
Yes. So on October 10th, starting from October 9th, 10th, and 11th, our church, Zion Church, was raided from 9 different cities, and they detained up to 30 people in the beginning. Some folks have since been released or have been put on bail, but currently there are 22, including my father, and recently they've detained another individual. So now there are 23 detained from all across China, and they're all being placed in a detention center in Beihai City in Guangxi province, which is where my father is currently living. This has been seen as one of the largest crackdown of Chinese underground churches in the last 40 years. And we think that this is definitely an escalation of relations between church and state. And they are all being charged with a very recently legislated policy under illegal dissemination of dissemination of information online, and those are all the reason why they are charged with that is because my father has been preaching his sermons on Zoom and having this hybrid model in which people meet both online and offline. And we were able to reach up to 10,000 people, often daily, for their daily devotionals. And because of the church influence, Zion Church has been subject to this attack.
So Grace, so people understand what's been happening there. So they crack down on in-person meetings if you're not a registered church, an official church. So technology has been used to allow churches to meet, as you said, on Zoom. People are hungry for that fellowship and for that teaching. And so now they've gone after that, passing laws saying that you can't disseminate information online like this. So the bottom line is they want to silence and eliminate the church.
Yes. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, in 2018, prior to 2018, Zion Church was one of the largest church in Beijing, and we were hosting about 1,500 people weekly. And we had a sanctuary, a beautiful sanctuary. And in 2018, the government cracked down on the place and took away the location of the church, took away everything, confiscated everything, and would now allow Zion Church or anyone to rent any space in Beijing. And that forced us to go on this online model, and we were able to do this online offline meeting in smaller groups when we are able to have rent out like smaller spaces in the future. But again, this is partly also because of the Chinese policy during COVID, in which there was a severe lockdown and no one was able to do anything. That Zion Church exploded, especially during COVID. And so now it's no longer just a regional church in Beijing, but a nationwide church in which we are spread across 40 different cities and have many, like 100, up to 100 meeting points. And so that is also why many of these that are detained were detained and captured and brought to Beihai from 9 different cities.
Grace, we just have about a minute and a half left. What's the condition of your father, and how can we be praying for your father and the other church leaders?
My father has severe type 2 diabetes, and so we are really concerned about his health, along with several others that are detained. They are relatively elderly and have some different health health problems, they will not allow my father to use the medication that the doctors have prescribed to him. We are very concerned about their sleeping, situation. There's apparently put in a room with more than 30 others with no beds, and they're all expected to sleep in a room all together. And so those are all very concerning things for the family. They're not allowing any families to visit and such. So we really hope and pray that there will be more attention to for my father and the church, and we plead that that the Christians from all across the world will be able to pray with us and to advocate for my father's situation.
Well, Grace, we certainly will be doing that, and we'll encourage others to stand with you and your family and your father and all of the believers there in China. Grace, thanks so much for sharing this information with us about your father.